Welcome to Conversations with Tom Shorkey. Conversations explores the past, the present, and the future of the communities in which we live through the eyes of interesting individuals. Now let's join our host, Tom Shorkey.
Welcome to Conversations. I'm your host, Tom Shorkey, for today's program. With us today, we have the owners of a very special business in Marine City. And it's a business you may not have realized is there, but if you traverse M29 north of town a few blocks, you pass the Heather House, which is that beautiful Victorian house that faces the bay, the Marine Bay, right across the road from the St. Clair River. With us today, our guests are Mark and Helen Lally, the owners, operators of the Heather House in Marine City. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having us.
I think for most people in the area, they've driven by the house a number of times, probably have seen the sign, and have never ventured up those front steps. But before we get into the Heather House and the rooms and all the exciting things that go on, could you tell our listeners at home a little bit of the history of that home?
Well, I'll let you take that, Mark.
The house was built in 1885, and there's a little bit of leeway in there, 1885, 86, and it was built by a ship captain, and he built the house, and not too long after they built the house, they had a fire, and the house was rebuilt shortly after that. And even to this day, you still see some of the burned timbers up in the attic. Over the time, the house has been apartments. It's been privately owned. For a lot of the time, the house sat vacant, oddly enough. And it's still, to this day, the fact that a lot of the original glass and stained glass in the house is still there. Is amazing.
From what I know, and from your website, this Captain Sauber. Who ended up being the mayor of Marine City, and real old timers before me could talk about there was a sugar plant and there was salt docks, and sounds like he had a lot to do with,
Worked
with
for
both of those sorts of things.
Right, quite an entrepreneur.
So anyway, there's a bed and breakfast now on that site, and I'm wondering how a couple of people from the west side of the, not really west, central, Brighton area, ended up being owners of a home in Marine City. So how were you first introduced to the Heather House?
Well, when we first started dating many years ago, Mark wanted to bring me somewhere special and was a little familiar with Marine City. So found the Heather House, and we came and just absolutely loved it. Heather and Bill were so lovely, and we just continued. That was our place to come. And we used to think, oh my gosh, wouldn't it be wonderful to do this in retirement? Wouldn't it be great to own the Heather House? And Mark, with the job he had, worked all over the state, and so one day he came home, he had been in Marine City, came home and said, oh my gosh, you're not going to believe this, but there's a for sale sign at the Heather House.
Oh boy.
Well, I actually hadn't been in Marine City. I was doing some work in Port Huron, and I liked the house so much, I was so fascinated with it that I would drive 20 miles out of my way just to drive by the house every time. And when I saw it was for sale, I thought, wow, Helen, she's gonna think this is really a great thing, but she's really a pretty logical person, and so when I go home, I know she's gonna say, well, that's great, we talked about a bed and breakfast, but we're not ready for retirement yet. This is not our time. And boy, when I got home and told her, she was already packing,
ready to go.
Yeah.
Well, it is interesting. You mentioned Heather and Bill. The Heather House carries Heather's name, Heather and Bill Bachram, who early 90s opened that up and did a fabulous job of decorating and setting it up, which you experienced as guests. So, but it's like almost everyone who walks into a bed and breakfast for the first time, and I know it happened to us, you go in and you go, this is the coolest experience. Wouldn't this be neat to run one of these? And then my wife would say, well, who's going to do all the sheets and the pillowcases and cook the breakfast kind of a thing. But it's interesting that when the opportunity became available, you thought,
we decided,
let's go for it.
Throw our hat in the ring. And I'd been in the hospitality business prior, you know, in the food business and catering, and so I was a little familiar with the cooking end of it and loved to garden, and certainly I know how to make a bed, so.
Well, what's unique? I mean, and obviously you guys have spent time in bed and breakfast all over the state, if not elsewhere also.
Sure.
What's unique about the Heather House?
Go ahead.
Oh, well, you know, we have 6 rooms, each one's different. That almost everything is unique about the Heather House. We have this beautiful house that sits on the St. Clair River. All the rooms are decorated differently. They're all very warm. There's a lot of private areas of the house that are very unique. The architecture in itself is very unique. The way that the Queen Anne Victorians are set up, you know, there's no two sides of the house that are the same. It's all very different. You know, so the historical value of the house is really very unique.
And it sits in, you know, Marine City, which has just had such a resurgence and has just turned into such a destination as well. So people can come and experience the Heather House, see a live show, have wonderful food at, you know, one of the many restaurants and candy, and, you know, so that just makes it so special as well to be surrounded by Marine City.
There isn't another place where you can sit on the porch and watch freighters from all over the world go by either.
Up close and personal.
Yeah, and it's not only freighters. We have seen military vehicles, tall ships, cruise ships. Yeah.
I saw a cruise ship go by the other day.
Yeah.
So you know, the river traffic is very interesting.
Yeah.
It's interesting because the scenery changes every day on the river, and
It
even
really
if the
does.
sun's not shining, there's something interesting going on. Do you get a lot of repeat customers?
Oh yes, we sure do. We're so fortunate that we have people who just love it and come back again and again. We've had it for 4 years now. We have guests who've been there 15 times, 20 times. We're so blessed with that.
When you have repeat customers, Helen, like that, does it challenge the person who's deciding what to make for breakfast in the morning?
Well, certainly that person is me.
Yeah, I knew that. How do you figure out what you're going to do for breakfast?
Well, it depends on the dietary restrictions. A lot of people come with dietaries, nowadays gluten-free and sugar-free and all those different things, dairy-free, vegans. So it is, but I love to cook, and so I don't mind that challenge at all. Sometimes I'll have 4 different dietary restrictions at the table at the same time. So yeah, I read cookbooks like people read novels.
Well, that's good. What some of the myths? Some people avoid bed and breakfast because there's a couple myths out there about, you know, you're living in somebody else's house or sharing bathrooms. What are some of those things you like to dispel,
and you can tell sometimes when people will call, they'll ask you these questions. So I know that I know they're out there. Most common myth is sharing a bathroom. All of our rooms have private baths, private balconies. And some of them have jetted tubs. They're either very cute or very, very nice. So the bath thing is always a question. And another one, it's not so much of a question, but sometimes people think that, boy, if I'm going to a bed and breakfast, I'm going to have to sit and talk to the owners all the time that I'm there. And that is not the case. Well, we certainly enjoy all of our guests. You know, that's just something that it'd be just like if you were to meet a friend. You know, it's, you know, you determine how much time that they want to interact with you, and you work around that. Some people really are very interested in the house. Some people are interested in you. Some people are interested in talk about their jobs or whatever the things that they might be dealing with. Other people, they just want
Other people don't want to
Right.
have interaction. They came to talk with whomever
Right,
they came.
right.
And that's a determination that we have to make with each guest. But certainly, we are happy to either let them quietly be by themselves and read, or we love sitting out on the porch talking with people and getting to know and meet people. More interesting aspect of our undertaking here.
They can have as much privacy as they want or as much interaction with other guests as well. They can interact with the other guests or they don't have to.
How do you, if you have what, 6 rooms, correct?
Correct.
So theoretically, you've got days when you have 10, 12 people for
12,
breakfast.
15
do you just have
sometimes.
like one dining room area, or are there other areas? How do you do that?
Yeah, we have a dining room table that we can seat 10, and then we've got other places around the house, a little table right in the front window that seats 2, and another little cove that can put 2 or 4. And sometimes, we get a lot of people who are just got married and want their breakfast up in their room too, so we can accommodate. We do that as well. So there's always somebody who wants to sit by themselves, but I think even the people who are reluctant to sit with a group of strangers are at ease immediately. They sit down and within minutes there's laughter, or they know somebody. There's, it's the small world, 7 degrees of separation. People find that, oh my gosh, you knew my neighbor, whatever, and they find it very comfortable in a short amount of time.
Now, when you purchased the Heather house, did you have to remodel, close down, and what shape was it in?
We were quite fortunate to purchase the house and take over from Bill and Heather, who just did an amazing job with that house. Mechanically, there was a few things that had to be done. It's 130-year-old house. There's always painting and that type of thing to be done. But for the most part,
it was turnkey.
yeah, we moved in one day and we had a full house the next day.
Yeah, we had people in the house the day we moved in.
Welcome to the B&B.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's do this crazy thing.
Yeah. So, we basically loved the formula that they had. We loved the way that they treated people. We loved the way the house was decorated. So we thought this is a great formula that we're going to use, and we just took that and ran with it. Helen changed the recipes around. We had to get a new website and a reservation system, that type of thing.
But I'm sorry.
But for the most part, we bought it and took over and
just tried not to screw it up.
yeah.
And for the most part, it's the 2 of you doing the work. Whether it's the cooking, the cleaning, or the
gardening.
That is correct.
Yeah.
But now you do have, you said in the high season, which I would imagine is summertime now.
Right.
You do have a little help.
Yes, I do, cleaning the rooms. It would just be impossible to flip all the rooms and have them ready for check-in for that day.
Literally in 3 hours.
Doing it
People,
by
because our
ourselves.
checkout is 11, check-in is 2, so.
Yeah.
All right, how do
So we
2
have some
people who've only visited bed and breakfast all of a sudden become owners of bed and breakfast? First day you're there, you got a full house. How do you learn how to do that? I mean, is there...
Well, Barbie also, Heather and Bill's daughter, Barbie, she'd really been running the house for the last 8 years.
Yeah.
Heather and Bill didn't have the greatest of health,
Yeah.
and so they had pretty much retired, still living in the home, but Barbie was coming, and she was lovely. So she really helped me and stayed for a few days. She'd come down, because she just lives down the street as well. So she'd come down in the morning, and we'd do breakfast together, and we kind of, we spent a couple of weekends, prior to moving in with staying at the house and working with Barbie. And, the hospitality business really comes kind of natural to us.
It almost seems like you either have to have a knack or a flair for it, or you shouldn't get involved.
Yes. And I think, just making people welcome.
What's the best part about owning the Heather house? What do you guys like the best? At night, just before you go to sleep, or in the morning, you go, hey, Mark, or hey, Helen, what's the best part of the whole
Well, you know, for
For
me,
you?
I love waking up in the morning with Helen. You know, at night we're having dinner and we're sitting out there watching the freighters go by, and you know, our guests are sitting on the porch laughing, and we thank God every day what we're doing. We get to spend our time, our days together doing a job that we love doing.
Cool.
You know, we've been so fortunate with the guests that we have, and you know, you're asking about how do you know how to do this, and really, we just base everything on how would we like to be treated, and that makes that part of it, you know, those decisions pretty easy.
What's the biggest challenge to being a innkeeper nowadays?
I think the biggest challenge, you really have to follow your gut a bit. People are coming into your home, you know, even though we have a separate quarters, but we still live there. And so when you're inviting people into your home that you don't know until they get there, and you're looking out for your other guests as well. So there have been times that we've had to, you know, just had a bad feeling about someone and had to say no. So that's, but it rarely happens, rarely happens. But the challenge is just, you know, making sure everybody's comfortable and having a great time, and you know, they've spent the money, maybe this is the only time they get to get away, and you just want to make it so special, and you just want them to leave with wonderful memories.
And it seems like they do, because if anyone goes on your website and reads some of the reviews, they love staying in your house.
Well, we're so blessed that people feel that way.
I have read that people who become inn owners or bed and breakfast operators, that there's a burnout factor that sets in because it's exciting, but it's intense, and it's different people all the time, and somebody's got to get those sheets washed, and those dishes need to be done, and who's getting to the grocery store. How are you going to avoid getting to that point? How do you keep making it fun?
I think you have to take time, and we really have to force ourselves sometimes to block a day, because we're so reluctant to tell somebody no. You know, when they call, and when we have blocked a day and somebody calls, it's like, oh my gosh, you know. But Heather gave us that advice, Barbie did, we've gone to seminars, B&B seminars, and the one thing they tell you is you have to take some time for yourself. So we do force ourselves to do that and kind of refresh, and we've got a lovely couple that comes in now when we do step away, and they run it, they do a beautiful job, and wonderful people. So yeah, you just have to force yourselves to step back occasionally.
Who's been influential in your life?
My parents, I have to say, they came over from Germany, grew up during the war, came over with a box of books, and my sister and my father built a business, and my mother worked as well later on in life. Always just watching them give back, give. Gave, you know, my dad started profit sharing in his business, and he joked, and before he had a profit to share, you know. So they've certainly just have set such an amazing example.
Wonderful. How about you, Mark?
I would definitely say, you know, both your parents as well. You know, Jack Klausnitzer and Heidi, they're definitely people that show you how to treat other people, and just amazing people. Far beyond even people that I thought were really amazing people prior to meeting them.
Very nice. Very.
They walk the walk.
Highly
Yeah.
of your mom and dad.
Yeah.
People that are going to watch the show, and they're going to say, well, gee, we've got relatives coming, you know, later in the summer, in the fall. Maybe we'd like them to check out the Heather house. Give me a 30-second commercial on why somebody should at least give you a call.
Well, they're going to have an experience that they aren't going to forget. I like to think that they're going to go back to work. They're going to tell people about it. When people walk through that door, I hope they leave their worries on the other side, because once they come in, they're going to be so relaxed. They're so welcomed. You can't feel welcome somewhere unless you truly are. And everyone who comes through that door is truly welcome. And we just want them to relax. They're going to step back in time a little bit. They're going to eat some good food. They're going to meet nice people. They're going to sit, relax. It's just going to be an experience.
With a beautiful view.
Yes, it's going to be an experience that they're going to remember and talk about.
Yeah, we definitely like to be firing on all cylinders with what we're doing here. And a lot of it is, Helen, when you pull up and park to get out of your car, you'll notice the gardens, the beautiful gardens, the hanging baskets, and this is before you even walk in the door. We're trying to provide an environment that guests, every little thing that they come in contact with us, it's memorable. And the flowers, walking into the house, we're constantly looking at things to make better.
And Mark works so hard on the outside of the house and all the mechanical stuff, and he's out there painting and just trying to make it's hard when you've got a 130-year-old house to keep looking fresh.
A wood house that requires painting every probably 4 or 5 years. I don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
He just takes it one section at a time.
But
okay, well, you sound like you got a real dynamic duo going here. But now, and Heather told you to block some time. So what do Mark and Helen do when you have to get away? Do you pick some other bed and breakfast someplace, or what do you
often
do?
Yeah.
We often do. We love staying in them. We love going in under the radar. We
undercover boss. You're not telling people.
Right.
We like to go in
until
and just
you're
be
all
a
done.
guest,
Yeah.
But both our grown boys are in Florida. So we certainly, and we've got a grandbaby on the way now.
Boy. That'll alter the travel
sure.
plans.
Yep.
So we tend to go south when, when we do have time to see the boys.
Well, I hope our listening audience at home has a renewed flavor and interest in the Heather House, about 4 blocks north of the traffic signal in the City Hall in Marine City. You have heard our innkeepers, Mark and Helen. Read the reviews, check out the website. It is, if you have company coming in from out of town, or if somebody wants to get away and do something a little bit different, don't hesitate. Contact the Heather House. And on behalf of Cable Channel 6 and Paul Dingeman and WatchCTV.org, I'd like to thank both of you for being our guests.
Well, thank you.
Great job.
Thanks
Thank
so
you.
much.
You've been watching Conversations with Tom Shorkey. Conversations explores the past, the present, and the future of the communities in which we live through the eyes of interesting individuals. If you have an idea for a future conversation, please contact us at www.watchctv.org. Thanks for watching Conversations with Tom Shorkey.